Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Small Groups. Tonight, we're going to begin a series called Kingdom Conversations. And we have a special guest with us. I did a interview or had a conversation with evangelist Landon Gore, who's no stranger to our church. He's preached here a few times. And he and I talked about the subject of prayer. So I hope that you enjoy our conversation, our kingdom conversation on prayer. So there has been so much since the pandemic started in 2020, and then throughout, into 2021, throughout all of last year and into this year. What I've kind of heard from ministry and ministers and even peers and others is just this call to increase in prayer. There's been such a push for people to pray more and to spiritual warfare and just pressing forward and being persistent in it right now. And it wasn't just like the politics of the season. It was just the spiritual nature of everything that's going on in the world right now, just a call to it. And so in my mind, one of the immediate things that I was looking at last year and have been looking at going in this year is the parable that Jesus tells in Luke 18. And it's the persistent widow and the unjust judge. And so just for a moment, talk to me about that, because that parable, because Jesus explains it, it relates to prayer and us calling on God and coming to God. So just for a moment, do you mind to speak to that parable?
Absolutely. I think, and going back over the story, something that was just really jumped out to me was the fact that here this lady is at a disadvantage because of her scenario, her context. She is a widow. Life has been very, very unfair to her. But on top of that, the society in which she lives in does not really lend her a voice. It does not lend her respect. And so, as we see in the story, there is nobody representing her. There is no VIP access. There is no voice speaking on her behalf.
Yeah.
And yet, at some point, she makes this cognizant decision. Well, if there's no other voice, I will use my voice.
Yeah, that's good.
And so, I think the fact that she does not have this legal team, she does not have this group of elite lawyers coming to the judge. No, she is representing herself, and she is speaking up for herself. She is crying out for herself when nobody will. I think that's a parallel that we're seeing in this story, and I think that's something that God is wanting us to recognize. It is the power of our ability to pray, our ability to speak on behalf of our situation without having to be hesitant or to wait on any other exterior or outside element. We have the ability to hit our knees and to lift our hands and to open our mouth and come to God at any time, anywhere, in any place. And I think, as simple as that is, I think that is a powerful point. She did not have the luxury to wait on anyone else, so she didn't. She did not have the luxury to have someone else's voice speaking on her behalf. So she said, you know what? If my voice is the only voice, my voice will be a voice. And I think that's so powerful. And so, of course, we see her coming day in, day out, knocking on the door, being persistent. And so these are just three quick points that I think that we have to take from her story. Number one, it is to be prayerful. We have to pray. The disciples said, Lord, teach us to pray. Prayer is not just theory. It's not just intention. It has to be an action. So I thought about Mark 11:24. Therefore, I say unto you, whatever things you desire, when you pray, believe that you receive them and you will have them. So I think we have to be prayerful. A second point that I draw from this story is that there has to be a certain passion that's involved. James 5:16 says, confess your faults one to another pray for one another that you may be healed. The effectual, fervent prayer of a righteous man or a righteous person availeth much. I would surmise that this lady was quite passionate. There was emotion involved.
Sure.
It wasn't just routine. It wasn't just monotonous duty. No, there was a fire that was on the inside of her,
Yeah.
that was being made manifest every time
Yeah.
she came to that shut door. And so then the last thing that I see, that really spoke out to me, was her patience. And we kind of see patience as inactivity, or just stillness. But Isaiah 40:31 says, "But they that wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." So patience is not prayerlessness.
Right.
patience is Patience is not a lack of action, but it is a continuance. It is a perseverance that this lady shows from the very beginning of her story to the end of her story. And last verse that just spoke out to me concerning this was Hebrews 10:36. For you have need of patience, that after you have done the will of God, you might receive the promise. For yet a little while, and he that shall come will come and will not tarry. Now the just shall live by faith. But if any man draw back, my soul shall have no pleasure in him. But we are not of them that draw back into perdition.
Yeah.
So that's the story of this lady. She is showing a pattern of speaking. For us, that's prayer. She is exhibiting a pattern of passion,
Yeah.
and she is exhibiting a pattern of patience. She was living at that door. And so what do we see? We see a parallel, and I believe, of what should be seen in us as last day, end time hour Christians. I believe we have to be prayerful. I believe we have to be passionate in our prayer. And I believe we have to have that patience showing up in our prayer.
Yeah. And not to continue the alliteration, but alliteration, but I can see this. Many people have labeled prayer as passive, like
Sure.
it's a passive activity in our current climate. And that's the furthest thing from the truth right now.
Yeah.
Prayer does so much, but you alluded to it a second ago when you said, in these last days, the way that parable ends, the way that Jesus concludes that is he says, look, I tell you that you will see justice and get it quickly. However, when the Son of Man comes, we will find faith. Will we find faith like this on the earth? And so,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, how do you see this parable and even the points that you made? How do you see that tie into the last day church, the current times that we live in right now?
Absolutely. Well, and this ties back into the story. I don't see, one of the greatest principles that I've learned is prayer is not a wall, prayer is a door.
Yeah.
And this
Well
this
said.
story shows this. And so I believe in this last day hour, we are at that door of opportunity. And so I believe for us, God is saying, hey, last day church, my people, my bride, I am presenting you door after door of prophecy, promise, potential, opportunity.
Yeah.
Will I find faith? Faith, as you just alluded to, is just like prayer. It's not inactive, it is active.
Yeah.
It is your belief being acted upon. And so I believe God is asking us, will you be found at that door? Because
Yeah.
if you're found at that door, well, all we see is one side, but I'm on the other side. And if you're found at that door will be open to you,
Right.
and you will walk through it, and you will see the possibilities and the fulfilled promises and prophecies and the healings and everything that has been spoken about this door of opportunity. So, Nate, I believe we as a collective body, I believe we as local churches are at that door in this end time hour.
Yeah. It is an opportunity. The prayer, the degree and level of prayer, that door is opening right now for the
Yeah.
church. And we always, we always leave small groups and these times together that we're having, and they're getting to join in on this conversation we're having. We always try to leave them with a practical thing. So we want to help our church walk through this open door. And I've seen something on social media that you've done that I wanted you to share with us. And it's simply how to increase prayer in your daily life. So things that we can do maybe very practically that can help us walk through that open door of prayer, and to be patient and to be, persistent like the widow was on the needs or the situations that are around us. So I know I've just kind of just very briefly alluded to it, but tell us about that practical thing that you've done that's helped increase prayer throughout your day.
Sure. This is what I would give as a challenge to those that are listening in and watching. Take your phone and set 4 alarms. Set an alarm in the morning for whenever you wake up and pray at the beginning of your day. Then set an alarm at 12. Then set an alarm at 5. So 2 times throughout the day. Maybe it's not 12, maybe it's 5, but at least 2 times throughout the day. And then set an alarm for somewhere when you're ending your day, you're concluding your day before you go to bed. And whenever that alarm goes off, that is your signal to pray. Now, the first time, that's your set time of prayer. When you wake up in the morning, that's where you begin your day. That's the same place, the same time. At the end of your day, that's the same place, the same time. That's your routine. That's your fixed location, your fixed place. But you don't know where you're going to be at 12. You don't know where you're going to be at 5.
Right.
But when that goes off, whether you're in the car, whether you're out eating, whether you're in a meeting, take a second, pause. If you can step out of the environment, step out of the environment for a minute. Just talk to God for 4 or 5 minutes. Maybe you're in a situation where you can't exactly step out. Talk to God in your mind. Talk to God under your breath, in your spirit. Just take a moment to acknowledge Him in all your ways. Yeah. And then as you continually do that, be creative with it. You can if you just use each of those alarms at 15 minutes each time, that's an hour of your day throughout the day. You can set more alarms. You can go longer. You can set more alarms throughout the day for shorter times. And so the idea is that to have that twofold principle of a set time of prayer, but also a spirit of prayer. And what's so amazing is after a while of alarms just going off throughout the day, all of a sudden it's your spirit that's giving you the alarm. Yeah. It's your mind, it's your heart that's saying, you know what? I want to breathe a word of prayer. Maybe it's in a moment of anxiety and you're saying, God, I need you to help me right now. Or perhaps everything's going great, but that alarm goes off on your phone or in your spirit and you just say, God, I just want to pause for a few seconds and let you know I love you. I worship you. Yeah. I'm thankful for you. And so the whole idea is to, again, have a set place of prayer, but to also cultivate a spirit of prayer. And it's really exciting just to see your spirit, your heart, and your mind align with those alarms. Yeah. And of course, it's not about performance. It's not just about checking a box, but it's a very practical, creative way to put our mindset into a pattern of talking to God continually throughout the day.
Sure. And it gets us in a place where, if there are needs that surround us in that moment, we start thinking about those in the spiritual context and less of, just our daily routines. And so, I love that. I love that because I feel like it moves us to the pattern of relationship and prayer and connection.
Absolutely.
With the Father and moving forward. And so, that's just a wonderful piece of advice I thought we could grow from. Thank you so much for doing this today and joining us as we talk about prayer and increase in prayer.
Absolutely. It's my honor. And I'm so excited about what God is doing in Cabot and beyond. And I believe we are standing at that door of opportunity. And as you said, it's opening. The door is opening.
Absolutely. Amen. Thank you so much. And so now we're going to have a time of discussion. So gather with your groups. Your group leader will lead you into some discussion. And let's talk about in the kingdom perspective what prayer means for each of us.